Well, for more on this, we're joined now by Antony Loewenstein, an independent journalist and author of the Palestine Laboratory. He was based in occupied East Jerusalem between 2016 and 2020. Antony, thank you very much for talking to us then. Can we just get your reaction to the news then that it looks like some sort of deal between Israel and Hamas is potentially now imminent?
I mean, it's welcome. I mean, there's no doubt that to have the idea of hostages released by Hamas is vital. To have also, as importantly, huge amounts of Palestinians who are kept in Israeli jails is equally important. And finally, the idea that there is a truce of sorts, even if it's for 5 days, the cessation of violence, which is causing so much carnage inside Gaza. So I welcome it, assuming it's true, assuming it happens. And I think obviously the hope is that it continues beyond 5 days, but I am honestly skeptical of the idea that Israel will accept anything except complete Hamas defeat, whatever that looks like, beyond that. But initially and now, obviously I welcome the idea of violence stopping for at least 5 days.
Obviously, we've been here before. It's 45 days into this conflict at the moment. What sort of issues do you think could still derail this deal, even at this sort of late hour when it seems they're close to striking some sort of agreement?
I'd heard that one of the sticking points was that Hamas did not want Israeli surveillance planes or drones to be flying overhead of Gaza during those 5 days. Now, Israel didn't accept that. Now, whether they can negotiate that out in some way, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to imagine Israel would not have some kind of surveillance drones, because I've been to Gaza many times over the years as a journalist, and you always hear those drones flying overhead 24/7. So that, my understanding, is a sticking point. And I think also there has been, since October 7, a clear of sorts, kind of not a split, but a between Hamas in Gaza and Hamas outside of Gaza is different. In fact, my understanding is that much of the Hamas leadership outside Gaza did not know about the attack that was coming on 7 October. Now, there's sort of general uniformity about messaging since then, but the fact is that some people live in Gaza, no doubt under, maybe in tunnels or who knows where else in Gaza, whereas many of the Hamas leadership live in Qatar or elsewhere. So there could be some disagreement around that as well, possibly.
How do you think it's going to go down in Israel as well?
Interesting. Mixed, actually. I mean, there's certain views, obviously, of hostage families who undeniably and rightly so are desperate for their loved ones back. So they would welcome this. And in fact, they've been some of the strongest voices in the last month to, in fact, call for some kind of, not even a stop of the war, but the idea somehow that this deluded belief that exists within Israel, and this is sadly the majority view within the Israeli Jewish population, that the only way Israel can have victory is to decimate Gaza. And some people even saying we should kill all Palestinians. I mean, that view is sadly much more common than we like to think. I think Israelis will welcome hostages coming back, but I do not think politically the Netanyahu government will accept the idea of a long-term ceasefire. I do not see that really happening, frankly, which is a problem because beyond the 5 days, many hostages still will remain in captivity within Gaza, but also there's obviously going to be lots of huge numbers. I mean, people often don't realize this. There are thousands and thousands of Palestinian prisoners within Israel. At least 12 to 1,500 of them, in fact, in the last month, well over that number, who are there under so-called administrative detention, which means they don't have to be charged instead of held indefinitely. And many Israelis do not want to release those prisoners. So I think there'll be a sticking point moving forward beyond the 5 days.
Yeah, you're not painting necessarily a particularly optimistic picture of how you see this playing out. Do you see after 5 days, presuming this deal is agreed, of course, that we go back to where we are today and the Israeli bombardment continues at the same pace?
I mean, I certainly hope not. I mean, the hope is in those 5 days there is massive increase in negotiation to try to find some way out of this, to stop this. To me, though, the real sticking point, which I really do not see Israel getting past based on what the government has said and also what, frankly, most Israeli Jews want, is that Hamas will not have any kind of leadership or governmental abilities in Gaza, which they clearly still do, and there are rockets coming out of Gaza every day. Hamas obviously still exists within Gaza. I do not see Israel accepting anything less than Hamas being defeated, which, by the way, is the US position as well. So I'm not trying to be overly pessimistic. I welcome a potential 5-day truce, but I think longer term, I worry that the war will continue soon enough.
Antony, real pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much for your thoughts and your insight. Antony Loewenstein there.
Thank you.